Hello, and welcome back to the Holistically Awakened podcast. I'm your host, Laurence, and today we're going to talk about a topic that I hear about a lot, and it's something that we all experience. It's going to be all about why we do things that we know we shouldn't do, self-sabotage, because I know that you can relate, I can relate. So, when it comes to doing things that we know is not good for us, like stalking our ex or eating the food that we know is not good for us or scrolling and procrastinating on our business goals, there's so many obvious examples, and I'm sure you can relate to any of these or some other ones. But here's where it can get really frustrating when we wonder, like, why do I keep doing this thing even though I know I don't want to do it? I tried to set a goal around it. Why do I self-sabotage myself when I know that I need to be doing the opposite or I should stop doing this? And it's not always about awareness. Awareness is obviously key, it's a big part, but it's not enough. And this is where it's really important to start to understand the subconscious mind. Because essentially, whenever we're doing something, it's really not helpful if we come from like a shaming energy of like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I just need to be more disciplined. I'm sure you've tried that before and it really doesn't work. And shaming and trying to be more disciplined is not really a long-term solution because it's usually going to be very short-lived and it's based from shame and we don't feel good when we shame ourselves. So we're often going to just rebel and keep doing the thing that we're trying not to do. So what's really important that we understand is that our nervous system is going to be wired for what's familiar, not necessarily what's good for you. So if chaos, drama, um, emotional highs and lows, inconsistency, anything like that is or has been normal for you, and that's been like the norm, then that's what your body is going to associate as normal. So, whatever's your current reality, whether that includes the results that you have, the relationship, money, body, habits, thoughts, etc., this is all like your normal. And this is what your body perceives as safe. So everything that you have currently in your reality is your baseline, and it's what your body and your nervous system and your subconscious mind deem as this is safe for me. Where it gets frustrating is when we stay stagnant and we actually can't grow from there because we don't understand the concepts I'm going to talk about today. And obviously, this is a very widespread human thing. So it's not about like shaming or anything. It's really about this awareness and starting to allow ourselves to grow beyond this comfort zone. So oftentimes we're going to have a capacity for what is normalized, what is like the maximum we're going to be able to have, whether it's love, money, good things happening, body, health, etc. This is why oftentimes it can feel like I always feel like I have something to worry about. Like I have a good stretch for like a few days and then something happens. Or, with money, this happens a lot when people are like, I get this money in the bank account, and then all of a sudden I have this huge bill that comes in out of nowhere. And I'm literally back to where I was before. Same thing with any area of life, whether it's health, relationship, things are going well in my relationship, and then I just find myself picking fight or being avoidant or whatever it is. Same thing with health. Like oftentimes we'll feel like, yeah, I'm doing really good with my habits, and I'm seeing progress, and then all of a sudden we fall off the wagon, we sabotage. This is not a unique condition. It is so normal, and I just want to normalize that first of all. But obviously, if you're here, you do want to go beyond that. So the first step here is, of course, the awareness, but we can't stop there. Oftentimes what people do is they refer to like a strategy, like I need to do more, I need to be just more disciplined, motivated, etc. But it's oftentimes not that that's really going to be moving the needle or that's the real issue. It's usually an energetic and subconscious thing where our subconscious mind slash our nervous system is perceiving what we want as a threat. So, for example, if we are avoiding building our business and we're scrolling instead, watching Netflix, then oftentimes there is a belief around what's going to happen when I get more clients, when I'm more seen, I'm more visible online. So I'm not going to post, I'm not going to reach out to those people because XYZ is going to happen. Oftentimes we have an association with what we want that is negative. And so that's where oftentimes we can hide, we can put things off, we can self-sabotage. And this is because our brain is perceiving this as a threat. So obviously, I don't want to do this. So I'd rather stay in this comfort zone because it's safe here, even though it might not be ideal. But obviously, you're alive and this is, where you survive. So you're obviously going to be okay if you stay in this comfort zone. But if you go outside of the comfort zone, then people might see you, they might reject you, they might criticize you. Maybe you get, I don't know, refund requests or whatever the fear is. So this is why we really need to come from a place of curiosity instead of shame, because our body, our nervous system, subconscious mind is trying to protect us. And so this is why the majority of my work with clients is working on this energetic subconscious root level, because it's not always going to be logical or make sense. And sometimes it's not even going to be in your awareness. And this is where this work is really powerful, because we start to extract that and reveal that, and we can shift that narrative. Instead of your mind being focused on what it's trying to avoid, we can actually program it to focus on the desire and the good things that are associated with what you want, so that it can start to pull that reality towards you through the reticular activating system. Because when we start to get focused on a new goal, that's when our brain is going to be like, okay, this is the thing that I'm focusing on. And it's going to start to look in our reality. What are things that are going to help you get to that place? But obviously, if this is something that is negative and it's bringing up a lot of fear, then our body is going to self-sabotage. So this is where we can start to reprogram and rewire and make the association something new and change the meaning, because oftentimes this isn't just like a belief that has been created today and now. For example, when you start your business or when you go on a date, it's oftentimes coming from childhood and adolescence, when we saw certain things about relationships, money, business, health, and we started to make associations with that. For example, you're going to have to work really, really hard and suffer and whatever else to make money. Or, maybe ideas about entrepreneurship, or, love doesn't last and you always get hurt, or any other sort of negative ideas about your body, your health, which we've all grown up around. And so that's what oftentimes is going to be the filter that our brain is looking at the world through. And so oftentimes it can be frustrating at the beginning when you're like, oh, I actually have a lot of negative beliefs that are really limiting that I don't like. And now I'm realizing that a lot of this is creating my life. And the good news is you can change this. You can change the narrative. This is why the subconscious mind is so cool, because we can actually shift that. It's not just like, okay, you have these stories and these limiting beliefs and these identities now that are in your brain and you just can't change them. The good thing is you can actually change them and create new neural pathways. So that's a super exciting thing. And it can happen really quickly when you shift this internal dialogue. And this is where it's really important to understand this, because we can really push harder and work more. But if we are coming up against these internal dialogues that are really self-defeating and limiting and negative and fear-based, then it won't really matter how much we're working. There's always going to be this like invisible glass ceiling, because we haven't actually uncovered that and worked through that. So this is why you might be doing things that you shouldn't. And you just keep going around in circle of like, I've always been like this. And you don't have to keep being like this. You can actually create any sort of identity and become any sort of person that you want to be. And I think that it does take a lot of awareness, but if you can start to break that pattern, you're going to find that things are going to shift, and they might shift really quickly when you start to do this work, because it's really about breaking the pattern. This is really what's important here. even if you start to have this awareness of like, oh, I'm starting to do that thing again. I'm starting to reach for my phone. Why is that? And uncovering the limiting beliefs around what would happen if I actually went all in on my business and I was successful. Because oftentimes we only look at like the positive, like, oh, obviously my life's going to be better if I have more clients and I have a successful business. But we don't look at like what are the downsides to that? Some of the things we already talked about, like rejection, being seen, having more eyeballs on you, complaints, things like that. So it can be really helpful to start to reflect on that. Like, what are some negative things that I'm afraid might happen when I hit this goal, when I put myself out there, whatever it is? Same thing with relationships. Like, if you are actually really vulnerable and whatever it is that you are avoiding, what might happen? Same thing with health. Oftentimes, if we actually were to become the healthiest, hottest version of ourselves, yes, that sounds great. But oftentimes our mind might go to like, but then this person might not love me anymore because this is what we have a shared complaint, or we bond over this, or I would be the first person in my family to actually look different, or whatever it is. Oftentimes it's going to be around relationships and rejection, but not only. But for the majority of the time, I've noticed that yes, it usually does have something to do with relationships and being included. So I really do encourage you to reflect on this. Maybe you want to journal around this, because this is going to really be helpful to open up your eyes to why do I keep blocking myself from this thing that I really want? And again, it's not about shame, it's really about curiosity and exploring that. And if this is something you want to dive deeper into, I definitely recommend checking out my masterclass, especially part 2. I will link it in the show notes. That's really going to help you as well go deeper into this work. And obviously, one-on-one work is where I do this with you on a one-on-one personalized, customized approach. So I'll put all of the details in the show notes. And thank you for joining today's conversation.